We're live. Good evening. Tonight is the meeting of the Plain Township Zoning Commission for April 8, 2015. I'm calling this a meeting to order, and Stephanie is to my left. She's the, what do you call it, the zoning assistant?
Sure.
Okay. To my left is Patty Thornborough, who is the vice chair of this commission. To my right is Greg Wolf, who is a member of the commission, and I'm Terry Seeberger. I'm the chairperson. And Ms. Metzger, any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Do we need a statement of duties? Does everybody know what we do and how it operates? If so, we'll just plow ahead. And we'll go right to the minutes of the February 18, 2015 meeting. Need a motion from somebody to approve them.
I motion that.
I second.
Any corrections?
Just want to take a second.
Okay. While you're doing that, a fourth member of the commission, Gary Benko, is now arriving.
I have no comments.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Do we have unfinished business? Okay, we do have new business. Okay, and we'll take them in order. And item number 1 is application 559-15. And that relates to the rezoning or requested rezoning of property at Diamond Street and Froms Avenue Northeast from R1, R2, and I2 to RR. And that has been duly advertised. I will tell folks that earlier today we received the recommendation of the Regional Planning Commission. The Regional Planning Commission, in reviewing this, says we recommend approval of a modification. It's a fairly lengthy letter. If anybody wants me to read it, go ahead and let me know, but I think it's fairly self-explanatory. And if we have to, we can go back to it, but at this point I'm going to ask if either of the applicants are here and wish to speak. Okay, why don't you come up front. When you get to the microphone, have you signed in yet? Okay. I'm going to swear you in a second. First of all, would you state your name and address?
My name is Michael Kramer. I live at 1391 Elm Creek Circle Northwest in Plain Township.
Okay, and that's a different property from the property that
It's a
we're
different
seeking.
property than the property that we're looking for the zoning change.
Okay. And do you swear or affirm that the statements and testimony that you will give from the podium are true and accurate to the best of your information and belief?
I do.
You are sworn. Okay. We know a little bit about this, but go ahead and tell us what this is about and why it will be rezoned.
I don't know what additional information you would like to prepare some packets with the current zoning prepared and the proposed zoning change. Just got the plat map in there from Alan, former zoning director. Thank you. Basically, we just wanted to pursue a zoning change to allow us to build a home, a single-family home, on the middle of parcel 3. I'm referring to the parcels based on the plat map, the current plat As you'll notice, that property, that particular parcel has a large section of I-2 zoning in it. And based on where we want to put our home from an aesthetic standpoint, it would be in that I-2 area, and just wanted to pursue a zoning change to allow us to put our home where we think we'd like to have the best view. The third page is just another copy of the survey plat with the recommendation of the RR. And I didn't realize that you guys would actually have the minutes from RPC, but I attached a copy of those from yesterday's meeting. I don't know what additional information you need. I just would like to ask the board's continued pursuit of rezoning our property to allow us to build a home.
Questions from commissioners?
This is pretty much the same as what you discussed.
Absolutely.
Were there any differences? Because I did look at the application. I did not see any, but
No,
were there
no
anything?
differences. The plan would be a single-family home, and then we would actually aggregate the property, remaining property, and farm, and have that farmed by the previous owner.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm familiar with the area, and you can see it from the aerial map. I mean, if there's any industrial around, I don't see it on here.
It's actually quite a ways to the west.
I know.
I do not have any further questions.
I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak for the application?
I'm against it.
Okay, all right. And Commissioner Harrison has just arrived. Okay, anybody else for? If not, we'll listen to somebody who wants to speak in opposition. Did you want to speak against it, sir? Thank you. Come up front.
Gentlemen, madam, I'm Charlie Schwartz.
Why don't you hold on a sec? You've got to sign in right there. Okay,
I'm
now-
Charlie Schwartz. I live at 9137 Little Branch Road.
Okay, now I need to swear you. Do you swear or affirm, sir, that the statements and testimony you give are true and to the best of your knowledge and information?
I affirm.
Okay, you may go ahead.
Did you get his address?
I live at 9137 Middle Branch Avenue. That's in Lake Township, but I own 85 acres in Plain Township, and it's zoned industrial. And I don't like to see it change because I don't want homes around me. The one place, family or partial, not theirs, but I have a third of a swimming pool on my property, and the people never got a permit. Other people plant their evergreen trees right next to my line, and now I have limbs 12 foot out in my field. That's 6 corn rows. Yet I don't make anything off of it. I told her I had the privilege to cut it right down the line. He said, "You don't know where the line is." I do. But I saved an argument, I haven't done anything, but I think I will in the next couple weeks. And I'm not really opposed to it. He should be allowed to build, but I want a buffer zone between us. I've been on the zoning board in Lake Township, and you probably won't zone rechange the one on partial 3, it would take 4 too. I don't want any of my land changed. And I don't know, does Plain Township have a rule on how close you can plant trees to your property line?
Well, that,
Small buildings are 10 foot, aren't they?
well, that may not be germane here. I don't believe that a request is being made to rezone any of your property. The only property subject to the rezoning request is that of the applicant.
And when people, I know they didn't, but a lot of people come out there, I have houses all around me. When they come out from the city, you know what they do? They bring their city rules out there. They don't go by our rules. They think we have to, I'm not allowed to haul manure some places. What am I going to do with it? Put it in the creek? Good. Kill the fish. So I don't want to see a change, but I know these people now, I know their family. And that's about all I have to say. You have any questions or anything?
I'm sorry, do you want to go?
No, go ahead.
So, is this your property right here? Are
Yes.
you directly adjacent to parcel number 4?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my question.
Charlie, is it?
What?
Charlie? Is that your name? Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions for you. You understand that when we have split parcels in our township, where some of them are part of the lots because they're so big, part of them are in maybe a residential and part of them are in an industrial, and there's a confusion or a question what the owner is allowed to do with his parcel. This applicant has asked us to make a decision that it should be rural residential all over. You understand that?
Yes, I know.
Only on his property.
Only on his.
Because he's got partly industrial and partly residential.
Right.
And he wants to be able to have agriculture and homesteads on those larger tracts, larger residential tracts. You understand that that's what he's asking for? Okay. You don't like that, or you're okay with it? I'm trying to understand.
I just need a buffer zone between where they're going to build their house and my property.
I think there is.
Sir?
Are you concerned that he'll complain later that
Now,
you're
you
still
know, when I
using-
come buying soybeans, it makes a lot of dust, and you know where it goes? Right towards their house.
Okay.
Well, that's one
Or
of
by
the
disking and the
He
ground's
knows that,
dry.
and he still wants to be your neighbor. He knows
Yeah.
that, and he still wants to
He's
be
a
your
nice
neighbor.
guy. I know a lot of his family. My wife worked for her relation's boss at Hercules,
Mhm.
and we found out tonight we know him real well, or knew their other family.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your input.
The beauty of his plan would be the fact that he's building his house on the 3rd parcel, the 3rd track. So there's going to be a big distance in between your field and his house. And it's not like
Right,
he's going to be
but-
planting trees
yeah.
over there, he's going to be farming it too. So it's just going to
What
be
if
your
he
farm and
decides to
his
get,
farm.
what if he decides to get rid of that parcel next to me and somebody builds a house on that?
Well, I mean,
Then
that would be something for later. But
Yeah, they're right against my line then.
But one of the things that we've been talking about for the past year was trying to find these split parcels and trying to eliminate them. Either determine that they should all be industrial or they should all be residential. And so we've got to kind of make a choice. And that's what he's trying to help us develop, is whether or not we should have it as one or the other.
R1 is only one family, right? Not duplex.
No, it's not going to be an R1, it's going to be an RR, which means it's only going to be a farm.
rural residential, which
Is that
falls-
duplexes and condos?
No, it never
Just
was.
single family?
Yeah, just one home on 20 acres of land.
Okay.
So it's going to look like the Field of Dreams.
Well, one home on not less than 5 acres of land, I think is our rural
I don't
residential.
know what the,
Let's put it this way, it would not be dense housing.
Yes.
Would not be a development like an allotment, it would not be that.
I guess I expressed my opinion.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Just now,
Thank you.
You can't always be goody guy, and
no problem.
I'll be a nice neighbor and all that, but I just don't like it.
I understand your concern, but I think what they're doing is being very responsible by having a rural residential because they want to build a home, but they also want to farm in that area.
I think it will be. If not, I'll plow the yard up.
Thank you.
Thank
Cross
you very
that
much.
off.
Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, if not, I mean, we all have the RPC recommendation. If somebody wants me to read it aloud, fine. I don't think it's necessary. I'll leave that up to the commission members. I'd entertain a motion to approve the application as submitted.
I motion that.
Second?
Okay, any discussion by the commissioners before we go to a vote?
Well, I mean, obviously, we know that they are split parcels, and so that is something that we've been trying to work on for the past year, trying to eliminate those from our township. So I think this is a good opportunity to do that, especially in how split that one really is.
My observation, oh, go ahead, Steve.
I haven't secreted my thoughts about split zoning issues all along, and I think that we should be inclined to apply the more strict zoning to the whole rather than allow the more lenient or more intrusive designation to the whole. This is a good match here. We've got an agricultural area. We have a nice opportunity to have some homes on the sites where there's still going to be farming. It seems to be consistent with what I would like to see there, so I'm generally in favor of it.
Yes.
Yeah, I would concur. I mean, it looks like rural residential to me, and this would confirm that. I mean, usually people object to industrial zoning. This is the first time I've heard somebody objecting to going from industrial to rural residential, but that's okay. Any further comments from commissioners?
No.
My only concern was that now that I'm seeing the RPC recommendation to rezone to R1, why do you think that is, and why should we not follow that recommendation?
Why not go to R1 instead of R1?
Right. I mean, that's their recommendation. I'm just wondering. And the point is about some conditionally permitted uses, although I don't see that really happening on these smaller lots.
It's about the sewer.
Well, I see the conditionally permitted strip mining, airfields, landing strips, wireless communication towers.
The R1, they can go to an acre. R2 is 2 acres, or the R is 2 acres without sanitary sewer.
Part of the reason is I think the applicants have asked for an RR.
Right.
And they're the ones who are going to occupy and own it. I mean, I get the point that regional planning is making, because I mean, they will not always be the owners of this property, and if there is a subsequent owner down the road, that subsequent owner, they can make a request for a zone change.
There's no tie-in anywhere for septic or sewer.
Right.
Roads, right?
Right, and I'm still inclined to see it as farming,
Yes.
agricultural, which we're preserving that opportunity with the RR.
So we agreed.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the point. I'm trying to understand why RPC recommended what they did. And it doesn't, in this case, it doesn't really meld with what we're thinking.
Anything further? Stephanie, can you call the roll?
Wolf,
Yes.
Bento,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Thornborough,
Yes.
Seaberger.
Yes. This goes on to the trustees, and minus that.
That will be forwarded to the trustees on April 14th, and they'll set a public hearing for April 28th at 6:15.
Okay.
April 28th, you said, for the hearing? Thank you.
Best of luck to everybody, and this beautiful property out there, so take care of it. Why don't we go to the next item on the agenda, which is Amendment 560, which is a series of text changes. And we have a Regional Planning Commission report dated April 7, that approves the suggested modifications. You want to do them as a group or one at a time, or it's up to you folks.
Terry, it was recommended to us, Lisa and myself, that we can look at each section and make the changes, but then only vote once on it as a whole.
If I recall correctly, we are the applicants on this.
Right.
As I see my signature. So, is there anything on this that we would not review or talked over?
I just need a minute to digest the RPC recommendations.
That's fine.
Because it was issued yesterday and I didn't see it till today.
Yeah, well, that's
I didn't get it till 3:30-ish.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
So,
Haste makes.
give us a couple minutes here.
Fine.
Bunch of small changes. I think we talked for a long time.
We talked around tonight.
Yes.
But there are some things in here that they're recommending additional changes.
So I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. There are people in the audience, I'm going to read the Regional Planning Commission letter. The Regional Planning Commission letter says this is a summary. Here's their summary of the proposed amendment. It would amend the zoning resolution to add a definition and regulations for flea markets, to modify the manufactured home requirements, and the two key ones are that a roof has to be installed and approved by the Stark County Building Department, and we also recommended that structures be located on the site so that the side facing the street is parallel with the street, and that was true. So we didn't have, we wanted to make sure the longest side is facing the street.
No, we just didn't want them at an angle.
Or at an angle.
Yeah, people were whopper drawing the location of the unit as it comes in to meet the sideline and rear line setbacks, and it ended up that it wasn't necessarily even an end or a side that was parallel to the street, and it looked aesthetically inappropriate.
Okay.
I thought that's what we were trying to accomplish there.
Also, yeah, go ahead.
They didn't like our wording back then.
That's all right. Also, the amendment would modify the requirements for shared parking agreements, add exceptions for non-conforming signs and structures, and revise ingress and egress restrictions for conditionally permitted uses. RPC recommends approval of what we submitted and says they took into account the following facts. One, the proposed amendment would revise approval requirements for manufactured home installations. Currently, the zoning resolution requires the installation of these structures be approved by the Stark County Building Department. However, the proposed amendment would require these structures be instead approved by the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission. Per the Stark County Building Department, this is due to a recent change in review standards. So we kind of have to do that. Staff recommends adding to the text the official name for the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission in addition to its acronym. Well, we can do that, I suppose. 2, the positioning of manufactured homes on a lot is being proposed for modification. The wording of this section as it exists is currently confusing, but it appears that the modification is to require these buildings to be parallel and not angled to the street. 3, a definition and regulations for flea markets are being added. These markets would be allowed as a permitted use in B1, B2, I1, and I2 districts. Regulations for those markets are being proposed under Article 6, General Standards and Special Provisions. Item 4 under that section discusses the maximum time limit that a location may have a flea market. However, it appears this item, this is what they're saying, it appears that this item is not needed as the time limit is already explained per item 2 and 3 of that section. We considered the time limit for some time. I'm inclined to stick with what we did. 4, RPC said, under the general standards and provision article, it notes that container units, trailers, and vehicles would not be permissible storage units. For flea market sale goods, the township should clarify what storage structures would be acceptable, as it appears that only permanent type structures would be allowed for this temporary use. Just don't like what we want entirely. 5, there do not appear to be any maximum size restrictions proposed for flea markets due to the less intensive nature of some of the districts that these markets would be allowed in. A maximum square footage or lot coverage area may be necessary, otherwise flea markets may not be appropriate for the B1 district. I get that. 6, the amendment states in the general standards section that flea markets would be allowed in the B1 and B2 district. However, it appears that the inclusion of the I1 district was accidentally left out of the proposed changes under Article 7 district regulations. Did we leave that out? I don't think. 7, changes are being proposed for shared parking and driveway ingress and egress. It appears that shared parking agreements would have to provide spaces for the total required spaces for each use when considered independently. The purpose of shared parking agreements is to reduce the total amount of parking spaces required, and so it is unclear the intention of this modification. They're calling this a recommendation of approval. Okay. Staff would recommend establishing a reduced minimum requirement, perhaps a percentage of total required that would better capitalize on the purpose of these types of agreements while still requiring an adequate number of spaces. 8, the proposed amendment would allow non-conforming signs to be altered or moved if, as a result of an involuntary cause, such as an act of God. No requirements are being proposed for how much change or alteration would be allowed. Therefore, it is unclear as to the extent of changes that would be permissible. Staff recommends establishing certain minimum size and location requirements to prevent undesirable changes. 9, fees are being proposed for flea markets. However, these are set by a trustee resolution, not by virtue of the text amendment, and therefore staff has no recommendations on these. Why don't we go through these one at a time?
Well, I think we need to make a motion. I move to accept the Stark Regional Planning Commission's recommendation of approval of the modifications for application 560.
That's second.
Okay, so I'm clear, are you moving the adoption of what we put in our application?
As of right now.
As of right now, okay. All right, there's a motion and a second.
Is there a second?
Let's have some,
I second it.
yeah, let's have some discussion.
Since when do we have to accept or approve our recommendation? Unless I'm misunderstanding, Patty, are you meaning that we should modify our text to adopt every tweak that RPC is recommending?
Right, because that's what was recommended earlier, that we would make one motion and vote on all the changes instead of making
Okay, I know.
votes on each. So, I'd like to discuss that, whether we agree with all these changes, which I have a feeling might not be the case. And then once we've had that discussion, then I think we should vote not to approve it and then maybe go into a different
Oh, I see.
way.
The motion was for discussion purposes then.
Yes.
Okay, then the floor is open for discussion. Why don't we go start at the beginning, manufactured factory-built homes. Okay,
I got no problem with number one. If we've misstated or failed to recognize an official name that is now the governing body or the standard setter for this type of thing, I think we should probably just go ahead and, that's my thought.
Okay, so in 60213-1, replace Stark County Building Department with Ohio Manufactured Home Commission.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So you do not want it to say Central Inspection Bureau, OMHC agency?
And they claim it's now Ohio Manufactured Home Commission.
To the extent that we've used an inappropriate acronym or official name, I would like to change our text to use the proper name. I still think we want the Stark County Building Department in there, don't we?
Yeah, let's,
Well, they would issue the permit.
No, they don't issue any permits for manufactured homes.
No, but it has to be, we're saying that it's
You have to be approved by them.
approved by them.
Not the building department.
Only if it would have a foundation.
Oh, I'm sorry, instead be approved by.
So the only thing that would be needing a permit is second,
Yeah, I mean,
starting with sewer.
septic well, water,
Oh, I see. So what it's asking is, instead of it being approved by Stark County Building Department, that they would like that to be approved by the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission.
that's the new regulation.
Okay.
And
Okay.
would that also apply, can I post?
Good night.
Best of luck. Would that also apply then to 7 roofs, or is that still?
But if they did
if they're
it,
taking a roof,
if they did electrical tie-in, they would need a permit to tie in the meter and and which requires some kind of building permit.
So
it's
7
very touchy. I went back and forth with the Central Inspection Bureau and the building department
Who want-
multiple times.
Well, on a roof, if a roof is installed, who approves it?
The building department.
Then that's good.
If it has a flat roof and they make it a hip gable or handle,
Okay.
then the building department's there.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We discussed this last time, I think.
So the only change is going to be in 1, and make that Ohio Manufactured Home Commission.
Okay.
Now, do you want me to leave it as Central Inspection Bureau and then just type out Ohio Manufactured Home Commission agency? Because that is what I was given by the Central Inspection Bureau.
The RPC says Ohio Manufactured Home Commission.
Whatever you guys want is fine, I just want to make sure I have it written.
Yeah.
Well, number one, we would need a zoning permit to allow it to fit on the property.
Yes,
Then they would deliver the house or the manufactured home, but all the tap-ins would have to be inspected. The sewer, the electrical, and if they have any type of heating, gas, that all has to be inspected with the tie-ins, which requires.
but that's not what
But
one
one
is.
only refers to a
Yeah.
permanent foundation. The foundation is approved by the OMHC.
I'm just stressing on those.
So, are we saying, are we just wanting to spell out what OMHC stands for? Is that what we're trying to do?
I think we have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have to for clarity.
But are we leaving the word Central Inspection Bureau and agency in there and just spelling out OMHC?
Who's the Central Inspection Bureau?
I have their number in my office, I don't.
Pardon me.
They're brand new, just a couple years ago, the rules changed, we didn't know until somebody went to put a manufactured home on a property. We sent them to the building department sent back to us, the poor little lady was completely confused. Then Midwest Homes that sold her the home got involved and said, what are you guys doing? It goes through the Central Inspection Bureau. So I called them to confirm, and
RPC says it's, the official name is the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission. I seem to recall this from Health District meetings also.
So this commission has a body within it that does the inspections, and they're the central inspection group of this commission?
So they override Stark County Building Department inspections?
in the foundation system, yes.
Right. For manufactured homes.
For me, yes.
Since we're confused between the two entities, I think we need clarification, you know, between the one of, I'm sorry, I don't have my paperwork with me, but the where's that other name?
Central.
The
We just did the
central,
acronym, yeah.
yeah, the Central Inspection Bureau. I mean, if they have two different jobs between that and the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission, I think we really need to know what their difference is.
I don't know how to find that out for you.
You don't know how to find that
I
out?
could find it out right now.
And it sounds like,
Oh, go ahead.
I'd have to call Kurt Morris.
Oh,
it sounds like what we're trying to do is, whatever they're required to do to meet the county requirements, that's what we want them to do.
Yeah, but apparently this requirement has been taken over by a state commission.
Why are we so caught up in the name of the entity or whatever? Why don't we just say that they have to get all required inspections through the
Because
county?
it might not be the same requirements.
Because the county no longer has the jurisdiction to permit a foundation for a manufactured home.
Because just like in Tusk,
Oh, I see.
they don't have any, I don't need a building permit, or I didn't there for a while. I could go down there and build anything, there was no inspections.
The building department is actually now co-located with and at least nominally under the Stark County Health District. So I recall at Health District board meetings a similar discussion, that certain functions from this point forward, and it may have been a couple of years ago, are being assumed by this entity, the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission. And I thought, fine, I'll never hear those words again in my life. And here they are.
Because the health department is different from Stark County Building.
So is this
They're
now,
now co-located into the one.
Right.
so is this now to tell us that a person who's bringing in a manufactured home gets some sort of certificate before that unit gets set on that foundation, and we're going to be able to, our inspector's going to be able to see a piece of paper signed by somebody that says, this foundation is okay to put this unit on, or this house on?
Yes.
And it's not going to be the county anymore, it's going to be some private agency?
yes, Central Inspection Bureau.
Is Ohio Manufactured Home Commission, is that an entity, or is that a?
That is an entity of the state of Ohio.
Oh, okay, so it's another governmental entity.
It's another governmental entity.
But their regulations could be less than the Stark County Building Department.
Okay.
But they preempt.
Which one's the more general term? Is the Central Inspection Bureau inside the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission?
I am guessing
So,
that it is.
so
I don't know
so
that.
the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission, the big entity.
Because we're centrally located, we're,
Okay.
Central Inspection Bureau does Stark County, maybe they do Summit, maybe they do the eastern portion of the state. I don't know what all they cover, but there's different,
Is it, so, it sounds like it's part of the Manufactured Home Commission, but I don't know
yes.
that.
So I say just go generally, go Ohio Manufactured Home Commission, and then let them determine who's going to approve it inside their own entity.
RPC seems to know what they're talking about.
Now,
So,
is this the same as pre-built homes?
Yes.
The kind that come in and they put them on foundation, and in a day and a half, they're under roof, and you cut the plastic, that's The same thing, that's just not a trailer house, that's, we're dealing with the same thing
Yes,
as a manufactured pre-built home.
yes.
Bring them in two pieces.
It can be 2 stories.
I'm so glad you're
Oh,
here.
yeah, well, they're all over. Wow. And
I
they
was
have
very
no,
happy to go through the tape, and figure this out.
I have to put one together, so.
Okay.
All right, so we're just.
I have another comment.
Oh.
Sure, I hate to be overly attorney-ish, but if what we're trying to do here is to develop some text that tells our inspector what he has to see in order to okay this permit,
Nope,
or to okay the,
nope,
he's not gonna do anything?
nope. This is only telling the applicant what they need to do if they want to manufacture a home. We don't ever look at foundation permits. But they come after us. So this is just telling you, if you wanted to build a manufactured home in the township, what you,
Okay, so even more,
instead of us sending them to the building department, which is the wrong department to go to, we're trying to send them to the right department.
okay,
Which is the Ohio.
Yeah.
oh, I mean,
Yeah.
okay,
Ohio manufactured.
so with that in mind, we're developing text that, what, we're gonna have to change the text every time the agency changes it's doing the foundation inspections, is that what you're saying? Is that what we're admitting to by doing this? Why wouldn't we just say that it'll be the Ohio Manufacturing Home, OMHC, and then put parentheses, Ohio Home Manufacturing Commission, or such successor agency designated by the state of Ohio? Now we've drafted this so that we don't have to freaking look at it
And change it.
5 years from now if they change it to the Ohio Modular Unit Commission instead of the Manufacturer's Home Commission. We can, our people, our staff can just say, hey, there's an Ohio agency that does this, and we know when it happens to be, here it is.
I have two thoughts there. I kind of agree with you, but then on the other hand, I think it's healthy to go through it every 5 years to kind of change things or make sure. And if you leave it open like that, then there's no, I don't know. So I'm tossed, that's what I'm saying.
I think Steve's idea makes sense. I mean, Ohio Manufactured Home Commission, or any successor agency, or whatever, or such successor agency as designated by the state of Ohio.
And Penny, I agree with what you're saying, it's a healthy exercise to look at these, but you know what? They can change this in Columbus whenever. And that should not
It could be a year from now.
That should not dictate whether we have to go through a text amendment every time they decide they want to create another agency or
I
not.
never hear about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just wanted to put out there that I think it's healthy to review these. But I also understand your point that we don't have a timetable on when they're going to change things.
I'm inclined to do what Steve has suggested. What I did is I wrote down Ohio Manufactured Home Commission or such successor agency as designated by the state of Ohio.
Okay.
so right now, it says here, I'm just really confused about this. It says the township zoning resolutions requires the installation of the structure approved by the Stark County Building Department. However, the proposed amendment would require these structures to instead be approved by the Ohio Manufacturing Home Commission, only by them? So they would have to go to the state to get the approval? Is that,
This only, but one talks only about foundation.
Where?
RBC is
Where?
speaking very generally. I'm looking here,
okay,
in the actual proposed text amendment.
okay.
RBC was speaking in a more general fashion.
I see. We're talking foundations, they're talking about the whole idea of manufactured homes and who's going to be responsible for that. Oh, boy.
Well, I think we're thinking too much into this. I think what you said, let's put it into print. And that makes sense. That way, if this agency doesn't work out in the next few years, then we don't have to worry about it.
And it does what we're accomplishing, it directs the applicant, or the owner, to realize that they have to go look somewhere else for guidance as to what the appropriate installation requirements are.
Right.
I mean, once they approve the zoning and they put it in place, meaning in the location of the property, then our job's basically done, though, right? Once it's being built, that's through the state or through the county.
Yes. I mean, we come out and we make sure that it's been constructed,
All we,
size and location where it's supposed, where they said it was going to be. So we do a final inspection. We
Right.
just don't do a step-by-step inspection. We don't inspect footers and joists and
right,
trusses
that's
and.
through the building department, so all we want to make sure is that it sits within the setbacks of the property and the proper parallel or of the street.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Okay. So are we good with the language suggested by Steve?
May I bring it back to you?
Yes.
Just
Yes.
so I be sure I have it. So instead of saying Stark County Building Department or Central Inspection Bureau OMHC agency, we're gonna say Ohio Manufactured Home Commission or such successor agency as designated by the state of Ohio,
Got it.
period.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So far, so good. All right, let's go back to our hand. Okay, flea markets. Well, hang on, let's set number 2 of our
Two.
PC.
Yeah.
I have a question on that.
Okay. The positioning, the wording of this section, I take it there's talking about 8. What is confusing about the
We said we changed access to side.
Wording of the section. Credits.
I think the old version read longest access had to be parallel to the street.
That's
Where we
what-
changed it to any side of the structure could be parallel to the street.
See, you know, I don't like that.
Okay, let's come up with something
Can you
better.
read
There's
what
a-
it says?
in the.
Yeah, I mean, it says the side base,
Sorry.
okay,
I-
the
I
structure shall be
thought I
located
had
on the
that.
site so that the side facing the street is parallel to the street. I understand where they're confused on that, because you could have it bookended, have just one side facing the street and it's parallel to the street,
What
So-
about corner lot?
facing A Street.
Can you do it?
But if it's a
at
corner
an
lot,
angle?
Both ends are-
On a corner lot, could you put it at an angle? Could we put houses at angles on corner lots?
I don't know.
You know, I didn't like this, to tell you the truth, I didn't like this whole idea that we were shipping this to RPC because I didn't understand the concept. I don't even think our council, when they sat down here and told us what we were trying to accomplish, what exactly they were trying to accomplish here. I'm not sure we're even helping the situation, doing, tinkering with it at all
Right.
right now. If we don't know for sure what we're doing with it, why don't we knock that one out and look at it again later?
You know, I agree. Like, I kind of like how it was worded before with the long access facing the street is parallel to the street.
Put a house.
At least we understood what that meant. And I think I asked our township attorney whether the concept was to allow it to be perpendicular,
Right.
Yeah.
or was this just to avoid angular placement? And he went like, I think so. I don't know. He and Denny apparently had talked about that, but I'm not sure we got the full gist of what the reasoning behind the proposed change was.
Who recommended this in the first place? Was it Denny?
It was,
We had an issue arise with a person that put a mobile home on their property.
Yeah.
And they argued sentence number 8, stating that they could face it whatever way they wanted because axis, A-X-E-S, is misspelled. It should be A-X-I-S.
Yes.
And so they argued that they could put it whatever way they wanted, and we said, even if it's a typo, even if it's a misspelling, it clearly
But
states.
isn't that a plural?
there's only one long axis though.
Yeah, but you know something?
So should we just change the spelling?
That's what brought this whole thing up. That's what I know about it. Was this person that argued it and got away with it because we had a typo in our book.
What is an axis?
Patty, are you Googling it?
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I'm wondering if that's plural of axis.
Oh, it is the plural of axis.
So, but is it the way,
What is
so
the-
it wasn't misspelled per se, but maybe the way it was stated, maybe.
What is the
off.
definition of axis? That's what I'm curious about.
I'll do that too.
Egress.
No, I think like the equator is the axis of the earth, is it
Not access,
Oh,
A-C-C-E-S-S, axis, I'm sorry,
A-X-I-S.
A-X-I-S.
So we just wanted to eliminate
Like the
that.
floor plan of, I think they're referring to, if you look at from above, the floor plan of a structure, the axis would be a line you ran through the center of it that would be symmetrical on either side.
Okay.
An imaginary line about which a body rotates, and they refer to the earth.
Or I think Steve's definition is also.
Yeah.
Well, there's another one. A fixed reference line for the measurement of coordinates. There's a couple actually.
I remember from graphing paper. in high school.
X and the Y
Yeah.
axis.
Yes, it is. That's why I'm like, that is not misspelled.
So that's what brought this up, and so Denny thought we could eliminate the whole problem
Axis.
by eliminating the word it's long, axis, whatever, to saying it is parallel with the street, so that the house is parallel with the street.
There's
so
something
this
to be
is
said for
correct.
the word side as opposed to axis.
The long side is parallel with the street.
We could add the word long.
Well, the word long was there. It's just, if you get rid of axis and just put the long side is parallel to the street.
That would work for me.
The long side facing the street is parallel with the street.
No, that the long,
No.
that
The long side is parallel to the street.
Why not the short side?
Because we
You
don't
don't
want
want
to
a
just
trailer
look at
mobile
it.
home, they're all like that. So
Yeah,
that
you have
they-
a
Well,
long
and
side
on a
and short
narrow
side.
lot,
oh, you're right.
on a narrow lot,
You're right, usually the narrow side is the side that
So that they can put the driveway in on the lot.
That's not
And
us.
that would not have any conflict with what they would be doing in the house. Or on the-
Mobile home parks are the health department, not us.
Yeah.
So we're
If you
talking
have a
just a
long,
single
narrow
lot,
lot,
like these people owned, and they
You
had
can't
to
put
It
put.
should be the short side
And
faces parallel with the street.
No.
or any side.
Any
No,
side.
you're saying
No, no.
I think we
the
did
current
discuss-
way, the intent of the current text is
Any
that the
side.
long side be parallel with the street.
Basically, the front door faces the street, not the side.
There you go, that's why I asked, were we intending to eliminate angular placement and permit perpendicular or parallel?
Yes.
And that's what I thought, that's why I proposed the language that I proposed.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know, but that we were trying to put placement on narrow lots so that they could do it, and we didn't want the trailers cockeyed. So, but we just can't say you can put it the long side parallel with the street, because then you're gonna need a long lot.
Exactly why I said what,
Yeah, so if we.
a side
So if we go
parallel.
short side,
Assuming it's
long side,
rectangular, yeah.
as long as it's facing the street, then it should be okay.
I'm good with number 8, it's in our proposed text amendment.
I would much rather see it so that the long side is parallel to the street. Because I don't want these houses all bookended, they're building these things.
Well,
Looking like
you're
a-
adapting it to the existing lot. So if
Sure.
your lot's only 40 feet wide,
Mhm.
and it's not being used for anything, then if you can sell it, put a trailer, mobile home on it,
Yeah.
then why not?
But think about how that's gonna bring down the neighborhood.
For 40-foot wide lots, they're already,
Right.
You can build a house that way. We don't require the long side of a house that's a stick built to be parallel with the
Yeah.
street. So why are we doing it any differently?
Look at Lake
For
Cable,
this.
look at all the homes in Lake Cable. The driveway faces the street and the house is towards the back of the lake.
Well, sure, but they're all built in the 20s.
No, they're not.
Well, a lot of them are.
You
A
wanna-
lot of the old
you check the
houses.
building permits, they're tearing them all down, rebuilding them. And guess what? The garages face the street, because they're narrow lots.
I know you want to have one vote, but we may not.
No, I'm just saying, I
No, you have it.
understand
we
what
might
the
have
purpose of the text amendment was.
See, we-
Because I misunderstood the intent of the text amendment. I thought it was to get rid of angular, but permit perpendicular and parallel.
Well, that's-
And now I'm hearing that the original intent of the recommendation was to make sure it's parallel and not perpendicular or angular.
But the long side, you know?
I think that the way we have it here is just fine, because for the 40-foot wide lot, somebody will be able to put a home on there and it won't be angled, it'll either be this way or this way.
Because, I agree, because if not, a 40-foot lot is gonna go to waste, and somebody's, can't sell it, they're gonna lose property value. And you know what's gonna happen in the end, they're not gonna take care of it.
Okay, I'm ready to move on.
See, there's a neighborhood here in Plain Township that we actually took a look at a house. It was down behind Fisher's, down on 44th. And in that neighborhood, there's a couple houses that are bookended, as I'm calling them. I'm calling them bookended because you only see the little teeny part of the house as it's in there. And to tell you the truth, I thought that looked dumpy. We ended up not buying a house down there. That would have been a great investment because of the fact that.
But you're making an emotional,
Well, no, I'm not making an emotion.
we
but I-
have to make it based on,
But our job is to make sure that we keep the value of our township.
No, our value is to make sure that the lot is usable and solvable. It's the people's responsibility to upkeep their house. So you're getting confused.
We're really actually talking about the same thing. Your objection would apply whether it was stick-built or manufactured, right? You don't like a little
No,
other place.
just manufactured.
It's 602-
Now, if it's stick built, then it's
60213.
a house in the ground, and that's great.
So
I don't want people putting a trailer in the middle of a nice neighborhood, bookended because they can fit it there.
Okay, you still believe the manufactured homes are more
Absolutely.
trailers
Yes.
than homes?
Well,
Okay.
I agree with
is this just for the manufactured homes?
Yes.
Manufactured or factory built, so it's a trailer.
So it's a trailer that could be moved, that's on wheels.
Yeah, I mean,
Or-
you have to take it off the wheels
Okay,
according to our
yeah.
regulations and put it on a permanent foundation. But yes, it covers both old school mobile home trailers and new two houses or two sections that they put into one.
Put together, yeah.
Yes.
you know, we can't make decisions based on this or that. We have to make decisions because there's always, we can't cover every situation. But we can say that, because if you're talking about a manufactured home, yes, you want the long side, facing with the front door parallel to the street. But if you do have a trailer and you only have a 40-foot wide area, I think they're entitled to use their property as long as they, follow the regulations of what needs to be done as, as easements and whatnot. But I don't think we can be the judge and jury. I think we have to try to make the best decision that will fit most cases.
Well, if we were to put down that it had to be facing the long side would have to be facing the street, and somebody did have a 40-foot lot, then they go to the Board of Appeals and try to get that individually changed. So it's not like it couldn't happen, it's just like, I'm just trying to discourage it from happening.
You probably could, but their burden would be having to show
It would be
practical, so their hardships.
Somebody wanted to-
And really, they could build a stick home the way they want. So their hardship is that they can't afford a stick home and they want to put a trailer. And I'm not sure that that's the hardship that would give them what they want.
Well, let's define trailer and manufactured homes, because we're talking about manufactured homes, not trailers.
We're talking about trailers too.
60213,
Yes.
manufactured or factory-built homes.
If they take the wheels off and sit it on a foundation, even if it was a trailer, it's now
On a
regulated
foundation.
by this.
Some of these factory-built homes are every bit as nice as,
I
Sure.
agree,
Some
I
are better.
agree.
yeah.
Yeah, because they gotta match, their building codes have to be the max of every place in the United States. Because they don't know where they're going, so they have to have the maximum building code.
Do we have a consensus, or do we just need to go on to the next thing?
Can we say it just can't be angle built on the property?
That's what the recommendation appears to be saying. If that's what we're trying to accomplish, it should be parallel and not angle. I'm thinking, I meant it to be, it may be perpendicular or parallel, but not any other angle.
Okay.
But not at any other angle.
Not to bring up another thing, but what about a corner lot?
They
Well,
have to
better
be
be
angled.
parallel to one of them.
Okay, because I see homes being built at angles on corner lots.
You know,
And they meet
what
the
do you
setbacks.
think? What looks the best? What, if we're aesthetically trying to regulate the aesthetics of it, what do you think looks better? I think it, to tell you the truth, I think a 45 on a 90-degree corner might be beautiful. Is it practical to put it where you have to locate a driveway and whatnot? Probably not.
Well, I would suggest that the trailer would have to meet a certain, like the lot requirement. So if the lot's only 50 feet wide, then it has to go in with the side to the front. But if it's wide enough to handle it to be parallel, then it should be parallel. And the structure would have to accommodate the lot. I mean, that's the only way you're going to be fair with that.
So then you make it an enforcement issue.
Yeah.
I'm okay for now.
You're okay for now?
I'll call it.
Sure. All right.
Yeah, I'll call it.
Sure. Oh, just in case anybody's wondering,
I mean, it should have the same basically restrictions of a residential house.
I showed you.
I'll put whatever you guys want.
I think we need to move on, maybe come back to
Yeah,
this.
let's come back to it.
Okay, let's come back. All right, let's see. Flea markets. There's no problem with flea markets.
If they sell
You
fleas.
said the time limit should be, is superfluous because it's already explained in items 2 and 3. I didn't see, I don't have 2 and 3 in front of me.
Well, I'll tell you what,
I
603.15.
cannot believe that. Oh, I had to have that hell.
603.15 is a new section, so
Okay.
the time limit is,
The township
You
should
didn't
have
want it to be a
farm stores.
I
permanent
don't-
setup, if I remember correctly.
Correct. And sometimes I think the more you spell it out, the clearer it is for people. And I
Yeah,
think that was the intent with.
I don't have a problem with leaving it as is.
okay.
But
Yeah, no, I think that's what was the idea, was first of all, there were people leaving their, it was a permanent thing, people were leaving their containers there, and that it was not aesthetically pleasing. And there was parking issues too, if I remember.
So even if it is superfluous, it's not inconsistent.
It is not inconsistent.
So we don't really have a problem. It's a tidiness issue, if anything, in the language. Okay.
Number 4 says, under the general standards and special provisions article, container units.
Should not be commercial.
And container units, trailers, and vehicles are not, the township should clarify what storage structures would be acceptable.
As it appears that only permanent type structures will be allowed for this temporary use.
I thought that's what we tried to push.
I thought so too. And here we're talking about a temporary use of an outdoor area,
Next, before a retail store.
but it was to be incidental with the main use that's
Right.
within the structure, or brought on and gone after. No storage, no on-site storage.
Not a professional flea market, in other words.
Right.
I think they're talking about number 7,
Yeah, they are.
and, we say within a building or enclosed by walls or solid fences. So,
I think, well, I mean, what type of storage structures would be acceptable. I think that when we were crafting this, we thought that a building, such as an existing building, or if it's out in the open, it'd have to be enclosed by a wall or solid fence to keep to avoid the attractive nuisance problem. I think, to me,
I mean, how far do you want to go? You want to say established business building? You want to just say a building?
it just says a building.
No, I think they got it exactly right. We really want permanent type structures as the enclosures or the storage areas.
Yes.
We don't want temporary.
No.
Yeah.
So it says, it appears that only permanent type structures would be allowed
For temporary.
So-
for this temporary
We
use.
don't want them to put up a tent in the middle of the parking lot, call that a flea market.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Not for storage.
But not
If the
storage.
activity's taking place there, we're talking about something different, aren't we?
We're doing storage of the items.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't want temporary storage. We want them to be put back in the store or take it with them.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we
Okay.
don't set up the tent,
Sure.
only operate it on weekends and leave the tent up with all the stuff in it for a week.
Right.
Although a tent, I don't think a tent would be precluded by number 7. It might be, probably everything would get stolen, but
Well, number 6 says it should be secured in a tent with obstacle side,
oh, yeah.
This is for storage, so
Storage.
if they do it for 30 days and they wait 2 or 3 months and they want to do it again, instead of bringing in trailers and semi-truck containers and things like that, and storing it there for 3 months and then doing the sale again, we're saying you've got to store it.
I don't see the problem with number 7 as we've crafted it.
I agree.
Okay.
5, there are no maximum size restrictions proposed for flea markets.
Well, that's not actually true, is it? Because the size limitation would be the practical circumstances of the site itself. It's gonna have parking that they have to have, it's gonna have some other buildings on it that they have to have. There's only so much area left that they can do their flea market on.
It says all applicable district setback lines are to be met.
So if we did a flea market outside of Plain Township and had everybody park in a parking lot,
That's not our parking,
exactly.
Yeah.
it has to be on the site.
But do we say that?
Well, we talk about a shared arrangement later, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We cover parking in number 9, number 10.
Yeah, but I mean, they have to meet applicable district setback lines. So if you have like a 20-foot side set back, you can't have your flea market any closer than 20 feet to a side lot line.
Are they intimating to us that maybe other texts, or other versions of this that they see in other towns that might say that it won't be any larger than the square footage associated to the actual use, the structure or whatever? So you're gonna have a flea market that's 5 times as big as the hardware store next to it that's having it or something? Is that what we're thinking?
Well,
Who's gonna police this too? Is it
I don't
only
know,
gonna
but you
be-
can tell if it's so huge that it's out of line, at least we'd have some way to shut it down if it was out of hand. I think that's what they're trying to give us. Due to the less intensive nature of some of the districts that the markets would be allowed in, a maximum square footage or lot coverage area may be necessary.
Otherwise, flea markets
Oh,
will not
yeah.
be proper for business.
Excuse me.
I mean, you already have setback requirements in each district. Okay? That defines the maximum square footage.
Is the flea market activity bound also by the setback?
I would imagine it is.
It's not a structure.
Does this tie a little bit into number 6 where they said that we left out the I-1 district, but we did I-2? Maybe that's part of the reasoning that we didn't put a maximum,
I can explain number 6,
all right?
but
I don't, what I'm asking, I don't, all I want to know is, could they be related then? Okay.
Okay.
in my reading of it, no, I think I know exactly what they're saying.
Steve's question is appropriate. So our number 8, where it says all applicable district setback lines are to be met, including for flea market uses.
This is just the flea market section, so it would be everything.
Or are to be met by the flea market use.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that's what we meant to say anyway.
Yeah.
But again, back to my concern about they're saying we don't have any maximum size restrictions. We do, but we define them as not to exceed the area designated by our setbacks and the other uses that are on the property, like for parking or for buildings.
Okay. Because the only way this flea market would get big is if they sold out rental, space. So it was like, instead of a business doing it, trying to sell their excess sporting goods or hardware stores, items, they came in, they says, hey, we'll sell 20 tables to somebody and we'll get a bigger flea market.
We haven't restricted them from doing that, I don't think.
No, we haven't.
And it might be that a sporting goods store wants to have, or have
Sidewalks.
a swap meet type thing where people that sell old fishing rods come in there, and that's going to be incidental to their thing, but they're going to do that once every summer or something like that. This is the kind of flea market or situation where that might apply.
Okay, because I see the Hartville, but that's self-contained in their business area.
And, right.
I think that we've met their size requirements just by changing 8 to add the words by the flea market to use.
I'm all for that.
Sounds fair.
Okay, take that, RBC.
Hang on, I want to make sure I got it right. So number 8 is going to say all applicable district setback lines are to be met by the flea market use.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, number 6 says,
Yeah, we missed that I-1 was accidentally left out. Do you have an idea about this? So you can.
Yes.
see, it says here, permitted in a B1, B2, I1, and I2 district.
In B1, we would put it as number 5, add flea markets as a permitted use. And then if you go to B2, number 1 of B2, under permitted, says all uses permitted in the B1 district. So it reflects back to all the permitted uses. So you don't spell everything out again, you just refer back to the previous page. So then, when you go to I1, it's kind of the same scenario. I1 reflects back to B2 and B1. They kind of keep reflecting back. So I think that's what they were saying. They thought we skipped it, but in actuality, I don't think we needed to put it there because everything bounces back and we don't relist everything again in each section.
Now,
I think that's what they were referring to.
yes, I do, 721 to a permitted use. So they're saying we forgot to.
Do we? I'll wait for your response.
They're saying we left it out of I1,
Right.
but I1 refers to everything permitted in a B2 and a B1. So we already put it in B1 with our new change.
Okay, good point.
So
I mean, whether, and we can add it expressly as a use in the I1 district or by default, it to the same result.
right.
Because if you look at B2, we don't have all of those permitted uses listed in the I1, it just kind of bounces back. That's the right one, that makes sense.
You're right.
Okay.
Incorporated by reference.
Yes, by number 1 in each of the sections, they always reflect
Refer to
back.
this and bring it over here.
Yes,
Actually, believe it or not, we wouldn't even then need to have anything expressly for I2.
Two, that's what I
yes,
was
we
gonna
do.
say.
Because if you read I2, it says all uses specifically permitted in I1.
Thank you.
Okay. That's
So-
why you're here.
We're good.
Okay.
That's what I think they were getting at with that one. I don't think they were referring to number 5 like you were asking, Patty. I could be wrong,
No,
but
Somebody who pays attention to details.
Good.
thank God.
I think.
So 6, I think I don't
I
think we
think
have any
we're
problem with
nothing.
RPC 6.
Yep.
All right.
You better never leave here, because you
I'm leaving in a
you
few
know what's
weeks.
going on.
Not for good, I hope I'm not.
Only temporary, right?
Or train somebody really good. Okay, changes are being proposed.
Yeah. Nice. A reduced minimum requirement that would vary.
Yeah, they don't like that. They think that if we're gonna, the whole idea of, their understanding of shared parking is different than what we wanted there. They wanted to say, well, if something on the lines of if 2 businesses are required 50 each, together they should only be required to have 85 because they're each not gonna use 50 and it's more efficient to have, efficient use of space to have shared parking where 85 are potentially available to each one, where the combined amount is less than the 100 that each would need individually. I think that's what they're saying there. I thought, the way we discussed it was that it'd be okay for especially in this situation where there is flea markets or whatever, to have agreements where you can enlarge the parking space available to your customer by joining with a neighboring businessman to allow, or person to allow their parking lot to be used with your use. And that was good, something we wanted to encourage. But we didn't want it to be a substitute for each one of them meeting their own minimums.
Right. RPC seems to be, is saying,
Be more lenient.
yeah, I don't think we have to be more lenient. We're trying to help area businesses so that, but we want to make sure that each of them on its own still has enough parking spaces. What happens if both businesses are running full tilt one day?
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect example. We had this in Perry. We had the Stark Trust offices on West Husk and butted against a church which had across the parking lot a large church. The church needed the parking lot on weekends. The church needed the parking lot on weekdays.
Yep.
They had a shared arrangement for maintenance and whatnot. Everybody, it worked out fine. I think there were enough parking spaces for each separate. But it was encouraged and it was a good thing because one could use more on occasion and it was something that they wanted to encourage.
Sure. I agree with that.
So what do you do with businesses that can't get along?
Well, they don't,
They don't share.
Agreements aren't required, they're permitted.
Right. Okay.
I guess the question is, why would you ever do that?
We provide, applicant shall provide a written agreement between owners of the properties and or leaseholders.
And if one doesn't agree, it does not happen.
Yeah.
I think we were concerned with that parties might agree now and build their businesses accordingly and then not get along later, and then what are we left with? We're left with not enough parking for either.
Yeah, well, we don't want that situation. I don't think we'd have that problem with the way we crafted it at our work session. I think what we did at work session is fine. I the RPC seems to be, as you said, talking about more leniency. If they don't get, if they suddenly don't get along, we would probably regret having been more lenient.
Okay, so,
I agree with that.
so is the consensus to leave it the way we worded it unless it turns out that there's some reason later to look at that again?
That's my,
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Okay. Proposed amendment. This is now, I think we're going to assigns. Okay. Staff would recommend establishing certain minimum size and location requirements to prevent undesirable changes. Well, let's all take a look.
Well, I think they meant maximum rather than minimum. Why would we be worried about a sign being too small?
I was wondering about the use of the word minimum.
I mean, somebody just has that playing backwards, I think.
And my understanding of non-conforming is it can be replaced same size, that's what makes it non-conforming. So if they wanted to make it larger, then it would no longer be non-conforming and they'd have to go for that 25% rule, the alteration or expansion of a non-conforming.
So minimum means they're reducing the size of it, and that's not permitted either because it's more than a 25% change?
If somebody came in to me and asked for a smaller one, I would let them do it without going for a 25% change. If they wanted bigger, then that's,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But if you had a 4x8 and you wanted to go to a 4x6, I
Yeah.
would say, okay, I mean, you had a 4x8, now you want a 4x6.
Yeah, right.
Look, you know,
So are you reading it the same way we are, that minimum is the wrong word there, that maximum is the word? If we want to regulate something, it should be the maximum size?
I think they intended the word maximum.
Yeah. So how is it stated in our work session, or in the wording, does that need to be altered because of that?
I thought the whole intention was just replacement. Exact, as close to the exact replacement as possible, and that the problem,
It was supposed to be clarifying,
okay.
you know? Yeah, I think that's fine.
No requirements being wrote for how much change or alteration would be allowed.
But it says that it needs to conform to the regulations.
That says any voluntary alteration.
Any voluntary, okay, but, okay, so we're talking more about the involuntary,
Right.
okay.
So,
We don't have.
Well, involuntary, I thought we were talking about in the involuntary situation, which means you're forced to do some maintenance or repair because of an act of God or whatever, that replacement was okay,
right.
exact replacement. It's if there's an alteration that's
Right.
being made, then you have to comply. I mean, you can put it back the way it was if the wind blew it down
Right.
or in a storm. But if you're gonna change it, you have to conform to the new
And so
requirement.
that changes it from involuntary to the change being voluntary.
Right, that's why the words involuntary, or voluntary requires compliance with the new rules.
Yep.
Is that what we talked about generally? The idea was to give the guy a break whose sign blew down in a storm.
Yes.
No harm, or no fault of his.
But you would have to come, if it was destroyed, you would have to conform to the new restrictions on the size of the sign.
No, you can
No.
replace it exactly the way it was, because, under grandfathering or whatever,
Okay.
old way. But if he was changing it in any way,
Then he-
moving its location, changing its size,
Then he has to.
Yeah.
but different material, wanted it lit now instead of whatever, then he has to comply to the new.
Which means he could have to reduce it.
Right.
If he doesn't want to put it up exactly the way it was.
Exactly.
Right.
He loses his grandfather.
Here's what I recommend. The second to last sentence of 101, or 1001.1D should be changed.
That's not enough. What if it now becomes a mechanical sign or a lit sign or
He's changed.
the LED sign or different, it's also, its character.
Provided
changes.
it is not changed in any way.
Any changes,
Words, location.
How about no material changes?
existing sign, any changes from the existing sign.
Rest of them.
So,
I say this.
so,
Well, you want fresh paint on it, it could be yellow instead of green, but
You can't change like a piece of plywood to a neon.
that's what I mean.
Right.
Or it's,
But if you wanted to paint the letters red instead of purple,
That's not,
that's not material. It's immaterial.
yes,
And that's not significant. I don't know, what word are we looking for?
replacement.
increased
Yeah.
If he's gonna replace the sign, if he can update the sign, from red to yellow.
Can we simplify by saying, it can be replaced with no material changes,
Yeah, well, it's,
or no significant changes?
so we're saying that then the old sign,
Because I'm wondering what significant changes.
well, let's see, here's what I wrote. After the.
How about no significant changes in size, location, or character?
Or
Or
material.
appearance.
If you look at B, it says identical or in less conflict. So if,
Oh,
Oh, that sums it up.
I don't know if that
Uh,
is the wording you're looking for,
yeah, that's good. I mean, let's be consistent. If we said that somewhere else, and
Yeah.
because it says change of a non-conforming use.
No, that's Brian Wood. Where is that, 1001B?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
If the sign is not identical in
or in
size,
less conflict.
size, composition,
So if it was lit and you want to make it unlit, that's fine, but if it's unlit and you want to make it lit, then I would call that more conflict.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's, yeah.
So,
So the
that's
question
kind
is,
of a
do we
term
need
of art.
to change
The
it
zoning
at
people know
all?
what that means. More conflict, less conflict. Okay.
I know what that means, I'm the only zoning person left.
Well, I understand what that means. I understand what that
Yeah,
means.
because we know this is gonna get the phone calls.
Yeah, not for 3 months I won't.
yeah, so we're gonna have to make sure this is ironclad.
well, that's what I'm working on this. Provided, applicant, comma, provided that the non-conforming sign is identical or less, or in less conflict with the character and use of the district than the existing non-conforming sign.
Can we refer to that?
I don't think so. That talks about use.
Is it an existing non-conforming sign, or is it existing, or is it a previous non-conforming sign? Because he's only replacing it or doing it if it's no longer there or if it's destroyed.
Well, you say existing sign, the existing sign that you're replacing has to be reproduced exactly.
Okay. It might just be semantics, I might be splitting hairs here, but I'm wanting the instance where a sign gets knocked over and is gone, that he's allowed to replace it, just the way it was, but it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So,
Yeah, but you can still get a piece
as-
of plywood.
As previously
Right.
structured, or was previously, okay. What words are we looking for there?
Whatever you do, make it simple so that people understand
Reproduction.
it.
Provided that the,
Reproduction, not replacement.
provided that the altered or changed non,
I mean, does it have to be changed at all? The way I interpret it when I read it is it goes from involuntary to voluntary.
no, I get the point RPC is making. RPC wants to make sure that if a sign, a non-conforming sign burns down, it's not replaced with something on a different spot on the property, or something twice as big, or suddenly goes from, a non-lit sign to a flashing white sign. That I get.
So we don't want it significant, we agree that we don't want it, the new sign to be altered or significantly moved from the previous sign.
I'd say even more
But-
than that.
I mean, we're still saying it has to conform to the regulations of the district, so don't we already have signed,
It
regulations?
doesn't have to conform, that's the whole point.
That's it, we're talking about what happens if a sign, non-conforming sign is damaged or destroyed by an act of God.
Sure. But you're saying that if you wanted to change it, voluntary alterations.
Yeah, voluntary, you always have to comply with the new rules.
Voluntary,
We're all conceding that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the confusion is, what does it mean to replicate? Is that what you're saying? That, what does it mean to replicate
To
your,
replace.
replace?
Reproduce.
We have another
You want to
problem.
reproduce
But-
the same sign.
We have another problem. The language that we propose says unless such alteration or change in location. We ought to just X out the words change in
Such
location.
alteration or change in location, what?
Yeah. Well, I think we ought to just take out the words change in
It has to
location.
be relocated in the same exact spot.
Well,
What
that would
was the
be,
matter with a less offensive spot? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
that would be like, market is widening,
Yeah.
and so all those people that have non-conforming signs now could actually, they might not have a sign anymore because they're widening. So we're allowing them to just bump it back and still be non-conforming, because it's not their fault, market to 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, whatever it is.
Sure.
So even though it moved from what was established in the 1950s because of the road widening, we're still going to consider it non-conforming.
And if you use the words that were comparable, less offensive or whatever, it could still be 5 feet back from the new right-of-way if it was 5 feet back from the old right-of-way.
Right.
And it would be in fact moved, but it would be no more intrusive, really.
Right, and it's not by their choice, it's because the road widened,
But it would still be in the same location as far as the setbacks.
essentially, yes.
It's not the same hole, though.
Yeah, we'd go out and dig a new.
I like that language, that non-conforming use will be the same or no,
Less in conflict.
yeah,
with the
or less in conflict.
character And
The enforcement people know what that means. Means no closer to this, to
Well,
the
the
street
same
right away.
requirements, the sign must meet all requirements, which means it would be the same setback. Different location, but same setback, so it would have to meet the new requirements.
So the whole point of a non-conforming use is that it doesn't meet the requirements, and that we're letting them continue to not meet the requirements because it was an old thing that was okay then, and its non-existence isn't their fault. Its damage isn't their fault.
But do we really want to do that? Because then you're letting them do something wrong twice.
Well, no, it might not be that they did anything wrong in the first place. It might be, have been there when they bought it, and it was a good sign, a solid thing, and it should be able to be continued because they didn't do anything wrong, and they shouldn't be required to go to the expense of doing something that they may be unable to have a sign now.
So Plainville Hardware over here, the gentleman's retiring.
Right.
And so True Value, what is it, True Value is coming into that spot. And so a whole new company's coming in here. Would they have to continue using the same sign, or could they put up a whole new sign?
They could put a new sign, but they would have to conform.
But it would be the same size as the old sign. They would be able to use an electronic sign.
It would have to be to race.
If their sign is not conforming now, then they
If they
could
try-
replace it with their name, but same size, same location.
Yeah, continuation of the same use and.
if in doubt,
If
they
the
would
pole's all
BCA.
rusted and terrible, they could take that pole out of the hole and put a new one in,
But-
essentially. I mean,
So it'd be grandfathered.
it would still remain non-conforming, if that's what, I mean, if you're using that as an example, if it's not conforming now, and it was deteriorating, and they needed to change it from plain old hardware to True Value hardware,
Well, what if they want to go from non-lit to lit?
then it's no longer non-conforming,
Okay.
because they're changing
They're changing.
what the non-conforming was.
Right.
Okay.
Here's after the word applicant, I wrote in comma, provided that the new non-conforming sign is identical to or less in conflict with the character and use of the district than the original non-conforming sign.
Sounds like you need two paragraphs. One for a sign that's been damaged by the act of God, and another paragraph saying if you want to install a new sign, you must meet the
We already have that part handled.
Okay.
The last part of it says, voluntary
Right.
changes shall meet the new restrictions, in essence.
I think it's wordy and confusing.
There's no way to word this to satisfy RPC that is not confusing.
It is legalese, but it's better than what we have.
Yeah.
I guess.
Can you read it again, Terry?
After the word applicant, comma, provided that the new non-conforming sign is identical to or less in conflict with the character and use of the district than the original non-conforming sign. So you can make it the same or make it less intrusive.
Is character and use what we're talking about, or are we talking about laid out restrictions?
Well, character and use, I take that to mean appearance and use clearly takes a look at the surrounding area as a whole.
I'm looking to the word conflict though, and what is it more in conflict with? Is it in conflict with the current restrictions that would apply under a conforming use, or is it in conflict with the appearance? I think we're talking about the prior rather than the latter.
Well, the character and the use of the district would, I guess, be the regulations for that district. If that district's regulations, less in conflict. Yeah, less in conflict with the district requirements.
District requirements. That's clean.
I just really want to caution you, both of you are lawyers,
Yeah.
and I just want to caution you that you have to make sure that whatever you decide to use can be understood by the layperson.
Right.
That's the only thing I want to say.
And enforced by a staff person who's reading it too, and
Okay.
having to explain it.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as
Should
you-
say legal
So you
counsel.
get that, Stephen?
Comma, okay, here, Steph, comma. Provided that the new non-conforming sign is identical to or less in conflict with the district requirements than the original non-conforming sign. I think
That's,
Sounds good.
yeah,
That's clean.
that's
Yeah,
better.
that's good.
Whew.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna repeat this back to you. After applicant, comma, provided that the new non-conforming sign is identical to or less in conflict with the district requirements than the original non-conforming sign?
Yeah.
Okay,
Then we have another comma, and then the rest of the text, right?
hang on. I put a period and then the word any voluntary alteration, da, 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 da.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
all right,
Is rust an act of God?
no.
Well,
It's a-
Did you
it's
see
a
my truck? No.
Not yet.
It snows, it rains.
act of God is generally the unpredictable.
Okay, so normal wear and tear wouldn't allow them to rebuild it exactly as it was. If it's worn out and shot and falls down from rust,
Yeah, that's maintenance.
that's new construction,
But it says here,
with new requirements.
non-conforming signs may be maintained and structural and electrical parts may be repaired to a safe condition. If they let the thing fall to pieces,
Because if it's rusted and hanging over, that's a dilapidated sign.
That's
Okay.
just poor maintenance, that's
Yeah,
not.
that's not active.
So we've gotta let them.
Okay, so rust is an involuntary cause.
Right.
No.
rust is kind
Steve?
of voluntary.
No, I'm asking,
It's about-
because everybody keeps, you say it is.
If somebody came into us that their sign was built in 1930 and it's rusted and it's dilapidated and they wanted to replace it same size, same location, we would have said yes before
Yes.
tonight's meeting.
But if it fell down,
we would allow them to replace it same size, same location before
Okay.
tonight's meeting.
Yes.
But if you guys are changing it, then after tonight's meeting, we may not.
Well, and I don't think it's a bad thing
Incentive to
to,
maintain your sign.
yes, that's what I say, I don't think that's such a bad thing.
Okay, flea market fees.
Okay.
Hold on. Flea market fees. So
Trustee.
yeah, but if the trustees pass this application, they do that by resolution, do they not?
Correct.
And what's the problem?
They want it as a resolution and not as a text amendment. Do we keep our fee schedules somewhere else separately, or is it within the text for other aspects in the zoning code? Where do we have our fee schedules?
The fee, I want to say definition, but
Yeah, we have fees.
1301.5 is in our book.
1301.
Yeah,
And then,
We got a bunch of them.
yeah, we have them in the back.
yeah,
We got a bunch of them.
I say keep it.
Let's put it this way, if the trustees pass the application, they will have voted on the fee. If they don't like the fee, they can take that out.
yeah, because the fee is in the front, under flea markets, number 2. It states a permit fee of $100, so we were just being consistent and adding it to our fee schedule.
I see no inconsistency, they'll know that they're adding a fee.
So where's the fee for flea markets?
It's a new use,
This
isn't
is a new, this is
Yeah,
a new
flea markets are
fee.
great.
So we're just adding a new.
It's a new fee, it becomes number 18.
Yeah, it'd be the last page.
Yeah,
Do we recommend a fee?
yeah, we did,
$100.
$100,
Oh, that's all?
yeah.
I say keep it.
I say keep it too. RPC's not objecting to a fee, they're saying it should be done some other way, but
They just want us to put it in text. But everything, all the other fees are in text.
yeah, but the trustees by resolution could add something to the text. And by passing this application, if they do, they will be acting by resolution.
Now, is that for 12 months or per event?
We never said. I think it's per.
It's
event.
30 consecutive days with a permit fee of
I
$100.
thought we agreed to like the 4 months. Last time we talked, or 3 months.
No, it's a 30
3
days.
months maximum, but it's
You
$100.
can do it 3
each time.
times, but each time,
For
Yeah.
30
each time's a
days.
new
For
fee.
30
Permit.
days. Okay.
Each time's a new fee. Each
Okay,
time-
so we're back to number 2 now. The
yeah.
only one
He
we
was
don't
not
have
gonna
some
let us
consensus
go. Okay, Greg.
Do you now surrender?
I surrender.
I would, for discussion purpose, I would suggest we change the spelling of axes to axis and leave it current text the way it is, and if we need to revisit it later about angular placements
Yes.
or whatever, let's
that.
do it after we've had full time to
Yes.
study it.
I'm good with that.
I'm great with that.
So we're
You okay with
reinserting the word, it's,
I'm very
And you're okay with it?
and we're just
Yes.
I'm
respelling
glad you brought it up,
access.
though, I think it's important
I'm
that we
taking
have
out the
that discussion.
side facing the street.
Yeah, because not every lot is rectangular. You got
Is that,
shaped
would
lots.
that have solved the problem with the guy that fussed it?
Lots like
I think you would have
cul-de-sacs.
fussed no matter what,
Okay.
but
I mean,
So, you have that down?
I can repeat it all back to you.
No, you do not have to.
I think I have it all down.
Okay, so the motion was to approve all the recommendations of the RPC, and we've succeeded in discussing why we shouldn't decide that, so
Why don't we take a vote on that?
Yep.
Would you call the roll? This is on the motion to approve the amendment with all recommendations as suggested by RPC, and I will tell everybody that my vote will be no, but
Well.
With our recommendations?
no.
No,
That'll
as
be a
is.
Oh,
That'll be a
okay.
As is,
That'll be a
yes.
follow-on motion.
I wanted to get it on the table so we could discuss.
good idea.
Steph, call the roll, please.
Wolf,
no.
Benko.
No.
Harrison.
No.
Thornborough.
No.
Seaver.
We already knew.
I already
You
said.
did, he went out of
Okay, I'll
order.
call the
I
roll.
already said, no.
Okay.
So it failed.
At this time, Mr. Chairman, I would move for the adoption of the text amendment proposed, but as edited during our discussions under the last motion.
I second that.
By Stephanie,
Pardon?
as edited by
As
Stephanie.
edited by Stephanie
Yeah.
under direction of the chairman during our last discussions.
So approval with modification as repeated back by me.
Correct.
Okay.
I second.
That's what-
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Wolf.
Yes.
Benko.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Thornborough.
Yes.
Seaver.
Yes. Unanimous, cool. All right,
Yikes.
thanks. And announcements.
All of this will be forwarded to the trustees at next Tuesday's meeting, April 14th, and they will set a public hearing for Tuesday, April 18th, typically at 6:15 p.m. And there's no May meeting. I will then be on maternity leave. Joyce is our parks secretary, and she's going to be me for the summer. Unfortunately, she got the flu this week, as well as my temporary girl got the flu this week. So if you guys could be nice and maybe help her with roll calls and things like that, I'm gonna try to train her, and she can watch the videos and kind of see how they go, but it'd be nice if she was here to,
Sure.
And I am
This is
prepared,
only
if need be, to do the summary,
okay.
to submit as the minutes for the following, for approval at the next meeting if we get to that. Um,
I'm sorry.
Yes, Steve, what are you saying again?
If Stephanie's replacement gets here and has some difficulty in preparing a minutes, a summary of the meeting to be presented at the next meeting for approval, I will be glad to go through the tape, come up with like Stephanie does, a minutes that is in form that we can look at and approve or whatever.
Okay.
That
We
sounds
do
good.
That's
need,
nice.
the clerical person here though for general
Yes.
presentation of what's been going on within the zoning department and all that stuff too.
And we may have a zoning director this summer, we may not, I don't know.
Have you heard any updates for Alba? Are they in the middle of interviewing or anything?
I know they accepted resumes, and I
Okay.
think that ended at the beginning or middle of March,
Okay.
and I haven't heard much since. But they're also accepting resumes now for a part-time inspector. So my office is going to be all new people this summer.
Was that posted?
I think they just put it in the paper this weekend.
Oh,
A part-time,
part-time inspector, zoning inspector.
would that be a conflict of interest for the board?
For a board member to be possibly, but I don't know the answer. Why don't we do this? Why don't we get a motion? to
Move we
adjourn?
adjourn.
Okay,
second that.
okay.
You guys are right on it.
Because that was,
Stephanie, call the roll.
Wolf,
Yes.
Benko,
yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Thornborough.
Yes.
Seaver.
No, but I'm outvoted.
Yeah.
What time, Terry?
It is now 7:50. I just wanted to have one non-unanimous vote.
Well, if I didn't make some of those changes, I would have